You three can share one meal. The words cut through the hum of first class like broken glass. Three boys stared at the tray, one meal, one insult, one moment that would change everything. Their mother looked up slowly, calm but unyielding, her eyes cold fire. Around them, passengers froze, unsure whether to speak or stay silent. Then came the final blow. That's how most of you people eat anyway. The air turned electric. Cameras lifted. A single breath separated humiliation from revolution. What no one realized was that this mother didn't just buy tickets, she owned the very airline about to crumble beneath her silence. Because the woman this flight attendant just humiliated with casual racism isn't just any passenger. She's about to bring down a $500 million empire with nothing but quiet dignity and devastating consequences. But to understand how one mother's restraint became a corporation's nightmare, we need to go back 8 hours earlier. Welcome back to Justice and Power Stories. If you're new here, you've just joined a community dedicated to truth, justice, and survival. Show some love by clicking the like and subscribe button. Before we dive deeper into this story, drop a comment where you are watching from and what time it is for you right now. Brooklyn, New York, November 22nd, 2025. Thanksgiving weekend. The Pierce family brownstone glows with pre-dawn light as Naomi Pierce, 39 years old, moves through her morning routine with military precision. She's been up since 4 a.m., preparing for a trip that represents so much more than a simple vacation. In the kitchen, she prepares breakfast for 3 identical boys who are still sleeping upstairs. 3 plates, 3 glasses of orange juice, 3 everything. It's been this way for 10 years, since the day she held them for the first time, and realized that loving them would be both the easiest and most challenging thing she'd ever do. Naomi Pierce isn't just any single mother. She's a woman who spent 6 years and nearly $200,000 fighting for these children. Fertility treatments that failed month after month. Miscarriages that broke her heart. Doctors who suggested she consider other options with barely concealed implications about single black women raising children. But Naomi never gave up because she'd learned early in life that anything worth having was worth fighting for. Her grandmother used to say, "Baby, they're going to try to convince you that you don't deserve the best things in life. Don't you ever believe them?" The final IVF attempt worked. Triplets. 3 perfect boys who arrived 8 weeks early and spent their first 2 months in the NICU. While Naomi practically lived at the hospital pumping breast milk every 3 hours and reading them stories through the incubator walls. She chose single motherhood deliberately. Not because she couldn't find a partner, but because she refused to settle for less than the kind of love she wanted to model for her sons. The kind of love that doesn't require compromise on fundamental values. The kind of love that says you're worthy exactly as you are, regardless of what society whispers about your family structure. Now, 10 years later, she's built an empire that would make her grandmother proud. The Pierce Foundation manages over $2 billion in assets focusing on medical research, educational initiatives, and social justice programs. Her investment portfolio spans multiple industries with significant holdings in companies that claim to value diversity and inclusion. What most people don't know is that a substantial portion of her airline investments, particularly her 22% stake in Skyline Airlines, came with strings attached. The Pierce Foundation doesn't just invest money, it invests in promises of change. The irony will become devastating in a few hours. Upstairs, 3 boys begin stirring in their shared bedroom, which Naomi designed to reflect their individual personalities while reinforcing their bond as brothers. Each has his own space, but they choose to stay together most nights, finding comfort in shared dreams and whispered conversations. Malik is the artist and the empath. Sensitive, intuitive, always carrying a sketchbook to capture the world as he sees it. He notices things others miss. The way people's faces change when they realize his family doesn't have a father. The subtle shift in his mother's voice when strangers question their relationship. The exact shade of discomfort that crosses faces when they enter predominantly white spaces. Miles is the protector and the diplomat. Born 3 minutes before his brothers, he carries that responsibility with the seriousness of someone far older than 10. He's the one who speaks up when Micah is too shy, who makes sure Malik doesn't get lost in his artistic reveries, who always remembers to ask their mother if she's eaten when she's taking care of everyone else. Micah is the gentle soul and the observer. Diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at age 7, he's learned to navigate the world with careful attention to his body's needs and other people's reactions. He's also the most empathetic of the three, the one who cries during movies and brings home stray cats and asks profound questions about fairness and kindness that sometimes leave Naomi speechless. They wake up to the smell of pancakes and the sound of their mother's voice calling them for breakfast. Today is special in ways they can't fully comprehend yet. Today is their first real vacation, a long weekend in Boston with their godparents, Dr. Sarah and Dr. James Mitchell, who've been Naomi's closest friends since medical school and the closest thing to extended family the boys have ever known. First-class Mommy Malik asks during breakfast syrup, dripping from his fork as he tries to contain his excitement. First-class Naomi confirms, watching their faces light up with wonder. For my first loves she'd saved for months to make this trip special, though not because she couldn't afford it. The Pierce Foundation could charter a private jet if she wanted, but Naomi believes in teaching her sons the value of working towards something meaningful. They'd done extra chores, maintained excellent grades, and completed a family volunteer project at the local food bank. This trip is their reward, but more importantly, it's a lesson in earning what you want through effort and dedication. After breakfast, they pack together in a ritual that's become sacred over the years. 3 matching navy sweaters that Naomi bought specially for the trip, each embroidered with their initials in gold thread. 3 small suitcases that the boys packed themselves, arguing good-naturedly over who gets to bring which books and toys. Naomi watches them and thinks about legacy. Everything she's built, every investment, every business decision, every late night working while they slept, it's all for them to ensure they grow up knowing they can be anything, go anywhere, achieve everything they're willing to work for. But she also knows that the world will test them in ways it doesn't test other children. They'll have to be twice as good to get half the recognition. They'll have to maintain their composure in situations that would excuse explosive anger from others. They'll have to prove their worth repeatedly to people who should never have questioned it in the first place. She kneels down to their level before they leave for the airport, her voice serious but loving. Sharing wisdom passed down from generations of black mothers who had to prepare their children for an unfair world. Remember what I always tell you. Never let anyone treat you like you're lucky to be where you earned the right to sit. Miles nods solemnly, understanding the weight behind her words. Because we belong everywhere we are. That's right, baby. You don't have to prove your worth to anyone. You just have to know it yourself and never let their ignorance make you doubt it. But even as she says it, Naomi knows the world won't always see her boys the way she does. Beautiful, brilliant, deserving of every opportunity she's worked to provide them. Some people will see them as threats to be contained, problems to be managed, or charity cases to be pitted. The drive to LaGuardia Airport should be pure excitement. The boys press their faces against the car windows, pointing out landmarks, debating whether they'll see birds flying at airplane height. They've never been on a plane before, and their anticipation is infectious, filling the car with laughter and rapid-fire questions about altitude and air pressure, and whether their ears will really pop. Naomi glances at them in the rearview mirror and feels a familiar tightness in her chest. The protective instinct that's guided every decision she's made since they were born. She's tried to prepare them for a world that might not always welcome them, while also preserving their innocence and natural optimism as long as possible. It's a delicate balance that every Black parent knows, teaching your children to be proud and confident, while also teaching them to be careful and aware. At the airport, reality intrudes with the subtlety of a sledgehammer. The check-in agent, a middle-aged white woman with tired eyes and a practiced smile that doesn't quite reach them, examines Naomi's ID with unusual intensity. Dr. Pierce, she reads slowly, as if the title doesn't compute with the elegant Black woman standing before her. And these are your sons. The pause before sons carries years of assumptions about Black family structures, welfare queens, and absent fathers. Yes, all three of them. That's unusual. Naomi's jaw tightens slightly. Triplets. The woman's eyes dart between the boarding passes, and the family clearly trying to solve a puzzle that doesn't fit her preconceptions. How does a single Black mother afford first-class tickets for herself and 3 children? Who's really paying for this trip? What government program or charitable organization is behind this obvious extravagance? First-class tickets for all of them. The question carries obvious skepticism. Is there a problem with our reservations? Naomi asks, her voice perfectly polite but carrying a slight edge that suggests she's not unfamiliar with this kind of scrutiny. No problem. It's just we don't usually see. I mean, it's quite expensive for the woman doesn't finish her sentences, but her meaning is crystal clear. They move through security where the interrogation continues with bureaucratic efficiency. A TSA agent asks Naomi to explain why she's traveling with 3 children who look so much alike and whether she has proper documentation proving they're related. Are you their legal guardian? The agent asks, examining their birth certificates with suspicious eyes. I'm their mother. All 3. The father is listed as donor on their birth certificates. As you can see, the agent raises an eyebrow, clearly disapproving of Naomi's choice to use a sperm donor. Interesting family setup. Must be challenging handling 3 boys alone. The judgment in her voice is unmistakable. Single Black mothers are automatically assumed to be struggling, overwhelmed, probably relying on government assistance or the charity of others. In the airline lounge, the assumptions become even more blatant. A businessman in an expensive suit approaches Naomi while she's reviewing documents on her tablet, and the boys are playing quietly with their travel games. "Excuse me," he says with a condescending tone, reserved for people he assumes are service workers. "Whose children are you watching today?" Their parents must really trust you to take them on such an expensive trip. Are you the nanny or the grandmother? The assumption that a Black woman in the first-class lounge must be hired help rather than a paying customer reveals everything about his worldview. "My own children," Naomi replies without looking up from her tablet, her voice cool and dismissive. The man's face reens. His assumption felt natural to him. A Black woman with 3 well-dressed children in the first-class lounge must be working for someone else. The idea that she might belong there on her own merit literally doesn't occur to him. "Oh, I just assumed. Sorry. It's just, not many people can afford first class these days, especially with 3 kids." The non-apology carries its own assumptions about who deserves luxury and who should be grateful for whatever they get. Each microaggression is a paper cut small, seemingly harmless, but they accumulate into a deeper wound. By the time they board the plane, Naomi feels the familiar weight of having to prove her worth in spaces she's more than earned the right to occupy. The boys don't notice the slides because Naomi has become expert at shielding them. They're too excited chattering about window seats and whether they'll be able to see their house from the sky. Their innocence is both a blessing and something she knows she can't protect forever. As they walk down the jet bridge toward their first-class seats, Naomi makes a silent promise to herself and her sons. This trip will be perfect. She'll handle any problems quietly and efficiently, ensuring their first flight experience is everything they've dreamed it would be. She has no idea she's about to face a situation that will test every principle she's ever held about dignity, restraint, and the true cost of fighting back against racism. What would you do if every public space required you to prove you belong there? Have you ever felt the exhausting weight of representing your entire race in predominantly white environments? Because what happens next will show exactly how much damage 18 words of casual racism can do and exactly how much power one mother's quiet response can wield. If you're already feeling the tension building and recognizing these everyday indignities that too many families face, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. This story is about to take a turn that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about power, justice, and the true price of discrimination. The first-class cabin of Skyline Airlines Flight 447 represents luxury designed to make passengers feel like royalty. Buttery leather seats that recline into full beds, personal entertainment systems, with 17-inch screens and service that promises to anticipate every need. The cabin smells of leather and fresh flowers with soft classical music, creating an atmosphere of refined elegance. As Naomi and her boys settle into their seats, 4A, 4B, and 4C. With Naomi across the aisle in 4D, the triplets can barely contain their wonder at this new world they've entered. Malik runs his small hands over the leather armrest, marveling at how soft it feels. "Mommy, it's like sitting in a fancy car." But in the sky, Miles examines every button on his seat control panel with scientific curiosity, testing the reading light, the call button, the recline function. "Look how far back it goes. I could sleep in here." Micah immediately pulls out his sketchbook, trying to capture the elegant curve of the cabin ceiling and the way afternoon light filters through the oval windows. The colors are so pretty here. It's like being inside a cloud. Naomi smiles at their joy while opening her tablet to review documents that would surprise anyone who bothered to look closely. To casual observers, she appears to be checking emails or reading news, but the files on her screen tell a very different story. Investment reports from Pierce Foundation, holdings partnership proposals for social justice initiatives, financial statements showing her controlling interest in various companies, including a detailed breakdown of her 22% ownership in Skyline Airlines, the very company currently flying them to Boston. Most importantly, she's reviewing the final draft of what she calls the Pierce Equality Initiative, a comprehensive $200 million program designed to revolutionize how airlines treat minority passengers. The proposal includes mandatory unconscious bias training policy changes to prevent discriminatory treatment, customer satisfaction monitoring across demographic lines, and financial incentives for companies that demonstrate measurable improvement. The bitter irony isn't lost on her. She's literally reviewing proposals to make flying more equitable while sitting on the very airline where she holds the most financial influence. In a few hours, she'll discover whether her investment in corporate change has been money well spent or a naive hope that companies can choose integrity over prejudice. That's when Melissa Sterling makes her entrance and the education begins. Melissa is a 20-year veteran of Skyline Airlines, 42 years old, with platinum blonde hair pulled back in a regulation bun, so tight it seems to stretch her features into a permanent expression of mild irritation. She's been having the worst year of her life, a messy divorce that left her financially struggling custody battles over her teenage daughter who barely speaks to her anymore, and a growing resentment toward passengers who seem to effortlessly possess everything she's lost. To Melissa, every interaction with passengers has become a test of her remaining authority, a chance to exert what little control she has left in a life that feels increasingly chaotic. She's developed an unconscious but systematic approach to passenger categorization, those who deserve her best service, those who get standard treatment, and those who need to be reminded of their place in the hierarchy. The Pierce family in her mind clearly falls into the third category, single black mother with 3 children, probably using assistance money or charity donations to afford seats they don't really deserve. She's seen it before. People trying to act like they belong in first class when everyone knows they should be grateful for whatever they get. "Good morning," she says with a smile that's been practiced thousands of times but never felt genuine. Her voice carrying the forced enthusiasm of someone who's learned to hide her true feelings behind professional pleasantries. "Welcome aboard Flight 447. What can I get you boys to drink this morning?" The words are correct, but her tone carries subtle condescension. The way adults speak to children, they don't expect to have manners or proper vocabulary. "Apple juice, please," Miles says politely, adding a small thank you, exactly as his mother taught him. His voice carries the clear diction of a child who's been raised with books and conversations, not television and neglect. "Me too, please," adds Malik, looking up at her with the earnest hopefulness of a child who expects adults to be kind, because that's been his experience so far. "Same, please," whispers Micah, who's always been the shyest of the 3, but never forgot his manners. Melissa nods curtly and moves on without another word, already dismissing them from her attention. But her next stop reveals everything about her true feelings and the systematic nature of her discrimination. Row 2 holds Thomas Chin, a 45-year-old Asian-American businessman reviewing contracts on his laptop. Melissa's entire demeanor transforms as she approaches someone she considers worthy of her best service. "Good morning, Mr. Chin," she says, her voice notably warmer and more respectful. "Coffee this morning. We have an excellent single-origin Colombian blend. Or perhaps you'd prefer our premium tea selection. We also have fresh squeezed orange juice, cranberry juice, or our signature mimosa." The contrast in service levels is immediate and obvious. Where the boys received a perfunctory greeting, Thomas Chin gets personalized attention and multiple options. "Coffee would be perfect, thank you. Cream and sugar." "Just black, please. Coming right up, sir. And would you like our warm nuts or perhaps some fresh fruit while you wait?" Next, she approaches row 1, where Harold and Margaret Thompson, an elderly white couple in their 70s, are holding hands and looking out the window at the clouds below. "Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, how lovely to see you flying with us again." Melissa gushes with an enthusiasm that seems genuinely warm. "Champagne to start your morning. We have Dom Perignon available in first class. Or perhaps our signature breakfast cocktail." "That would be delightful," dear Margaret says with a smile. "Wonderful. I'll be right back with that, and I'll make sure to bring some of our artisan cheese selection. I remember you enjoyed that on your last flight with us." The personalized service continues as Melissa moves to row 5, where another white family has settled in. David and Karen Johnson with their 2 children, Emma, age 9, and Luke, age 7. They're heading to Boston for a family wedding, and their excitement is palpable. "Good morning, Johnson family. Melissa's enthusiasm could power the aircraft engines. And what can I get our young travelers to drink? We have apple juice, orange juice, cranberry juice, milk, chocolate milk, or perhaps a special virgin cocktail that I can make just for you. Apple juice, Emma says excitedly, bouncing slightly in her seat. Orange juice for me, Luke adds with a grin. Apple juice and orange juice coming right up. Sweethearts. And look what I have for you. She produces activity packs filled with crayons, coloring books, and small toys. These are from our special first-class kids collection. The children squeal with delight as they examine their gifts, while their parents beam with satisfaction at the exceptional service their family is receiving. 25 minutes pass. The Pierce boys wait patiently with empty cups, watching other passengers receive elaborate beverage service. Thomas Chin sips his Colombian coffee from fine china. The Thompsons toast with champagne in crystal flutes. The Johnson children drink their juices through colorful straws that Melissa provided with a wink and a promise to bring special cookies later. The triplets wait with the patience of children who've been taught not to complain, not to demand attention, not to make their mother's life more difficult by being demanding or difficult. Other children throughout the cabin, even some in premium economy who've been upgraded, receive prompt, enthusiastic service. Melissa makes special trips to serve a young girl who'd been bumped up from the coach, offering her multiple juice options and bringing extra snacks without being asked. Still, the Pierce boys wait. Naomi notices, of course. She notices the systematic pattern of service, the way her sons are consistently overlooked while other passengers receive attention. But she's learned to pick her battles carefully, to distinguish between ignorance and malice, between mistakes and deliberate slights. "Excuse me," she says gently when Melissa passes their row for the 5th time, carrying a tray of warm nuts to the Thompsons. "My sons are still waiting for their drinks." Melissa stops and looks genuinely flustered, as if she'd completely forgotten, though everyone watching knows she hasn't forgotten anything. "Oh, I'm so sorry. We're actually running quite low on apple juice today. Supply chain issues. You know how it is. Would water be okay instead?" It's a blatant lie that insults everyone's intelligence. Naomi can see through the galley curtain where cases of apple juice are clearly visible on the storage racks. She'd watched Melissa serve apple juice to the Johnson children 20 minutes ago, and she's currently carrying a picture of it to refill other passengers' glasses. But Naomi chooses her battles carefully, understanding that sometimes you have to let small injustices pass to save your energy for larger ones. Water will be fine. Great. I'll be right back with that. The boys accept their water without complaint. Room temperature water in plastic cups, while other children enjoy chilled juices in proper glasses with decorative straws. But Naomi sees their disappointment. They'd been so excited about their first airplane drinks. Something special to mark the occasion of their first flight. Strike one. But the differential treatment extends far beyond beverages, revealing itself in dozens of small ways that create a comprehensive picture of systematic discrimination. When Emma Johnson drops her crayon and it rolls under the seat, Melissa appears instantly with a full pack of premium-colored pencils. "Here you go, sweetheart. These are from our special first-class activity kit, much better than regular crayons." When Malik drops his own crayon 20 minutes later, Melissa doesn't even notice. Miles has to unbuckle his seatbelt and crawl under the seat to retrieve it himself, while other passengers watch. Some with sympathy, others with a kind of studied indifference that allows injustice to flourish. When Emma Johnson asks for extra pillows to build a fort, Melissa brings 3 fluffy pillows and even helps arrange them. "How's that, princess, nice and cozy? You let me know if you need anything else to make your flight perfect." When Micah quietly mentions that his seat is uncomfortable because his diabetes pump is pressing against his side, Melissa suggests he try sitting up straighter without offering any assistance or accommodation. When Luke Johnson spills some juice on his shirt, Melissa immediately appears with wet wipes and a spare t-shirt from the airline's emergency clothing supply. "Don't worry about it, sweetie. These things happen. Let's get you all cleaned up." When Malik accidentally spills water on his tray table, Melissa sighs audibly and tosses him a single paper napkin. "Try to be more careful," she says curtly. The pattern is systematic, obvious to anyone paying attention, and heartbreaking in its casual cruelty. Every interaction reinforces a hierarchy that places the Pierce boys at the bottom, unworthy of the same consideration given to white children in identical circumstances. As lunch service begins at precisely 11:30 a.m., the discrimination reaches its crescendo. The aroma of herb-roasted chicken fills the cabin as Melissa and another flight attendant begin distributing meal trays with ceremonial precision. Each passenger receives their pre-ordered selection, carefully prepared plates with the exact entree they requested during booking. The triplets had spent 20 minutes during the reservation process, choosing their meals, each picking something different, because they wanted to try new foods and share bites with each other. It had been one of the highlights of planning their trip, the chance to eat fancy airplane food like they'd seen in movies. Malik ordered the herb-roasted chicken with rosemary potatoes and seasonal vegetables. Excited to try something with fancy herbs that he'd never tasted before, Miles picked the pasta primavera with grilled shrimp and Alfredo sauce. Drawn to the sophisticated combination of ingredients that sounded like something from a restaurant their godparents had described, Micah chose the grilled salmon with quinoa pilaf and steamed broccoli, a choice influenced partly by his diabetic meal planning needs, but mostly by his genuine love of fish and his curiosity about quinoa, which he'd read about in a health magazine. They watch with growing excitement as other passengers receive their meals, each plate presented like a work of art. Thomas Chin gets his chicken and immediately compliments the presentation to his seatmate. The Thompsons share bites of their pasta, laughing softly about their honeymoon in Italy 50 years ago when they were too poor to afford restaurants this nice. The Johnson family receives their meals with enthusiasm that borders on celebration. Even the children's portions are elegantly plated with colorful garnishes that make the food look like something from a cooking show. "This looks amazing!" Karen Johnson exclaims, photographing her meal before taking the first bite. "Better than most restaurants," David agrees, savoring his expertly prepared salmon. The boys' stomachs rumble quietly as they wait their turn, anticipation building with each passing minute. It's well past their normal lunchtime, and Micah especially needs to eat on schedule to manage his blood sugar levels properly. Finally, Melissa approaches their row, but instead of 3 individual trays bearing the meals they specifically ordered, she carries only one. A single standard first-class meal roasted chicken with mashed potatoes and green beans. No special presentation, no garnish, no acknowledgement of their individual preferences. "Here you go, boys," she says, placing the lone tray in front of Malik with the casual dismissiveness of someone distributing charity. "You 3 can share this." The words hit the cabin like a physical blow. Conversations stop mid-sentence. Other passengers look up from their meals, forks suspended halfway to their mouths, unable to believe what they've just witnessed. Miles looks up at Melissa with confusion and hurt clearly visible on his 10-year-old face. But we each ordered our own meal. I ordered pasta and Micah ordered fish. "We're short on kids' portions today." Melissa replies, her voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed without question. "You'll need to make this work. It's plenty of food for 3 children your size. But then, and this is where the cruelty becomes undeniable and the racism impossible to ignore, Melissa continues with her service, as if nothing unusual has happened. She moves directly to row 5, where the Johnson family waits for their meals, and her entire demeanor transforms back into the warm, enthusiastic service provider she'd been before. "Here we go, Johnson family," she announces cheerfully, her voice carrying genuine warmth. 1 herb roasted chicken for Dad Pasta, Primavera for Mom, and for our special young passengers. She places individual, beautifully presented children's meals in front of Emma and Luke with ceremonial care. Each plate is garnished with artistic precision, accompanied by special child-sized utensils and colorful napkins. 1 chicken tenders with sweet potato fries and rainbow vegetables for Miss Emma, and 1 mini cheeseburger with apple slices and carrot sticks for Master Luke. And look, I brought extra dessert for both of you because you've been such wonderful passengers today. The contrast is devastating and impossible to ignore. 3 individual specially prepared meals for 2 white children and their parents, complete with personalized service and extra treats. 1 shared adult meal for 3 black boys who paid the exact same ticket price and deserved the exact same treatment. The differential treatment isn't subtle. It's not a mistake or an oversight. It's deliberate, systematic discrimination happening in full view of an entire cabin of witnesses, some of whom are beginning to pull out their phones to document what they're seeing. Other passengers begin to notice and react with growing discomfort and anger. Thomas Chin stares in absolute disbelief, his fork suspended over his own meal as he processes the blatant injustice. The elderly Thompsons exchange horrified glances, their champagne forgotten, as they witness discrimination they haven't seen so openly since the civil rights era. A businesswoman in row 6 quietly begins recording on her phone, understanding that she's witnessing something that needs to be documented and shared. But Melissa isn't finished demonstrating the depth of her prejudice and the systematic nature of her discrimination. "Oh, and children," she announces to the Johnson kids, her voice sweet as syrup and loud enough for surrounding passengers to hear. "We have special ice cream sundaes available for dessert today. Would you like chocolate or vanilla? Or maybe both?" "Chocolate." Emma squeals with delight, clapping her hands. "Vanilla for me," Luke adds, bouncing in his seat with excitement. "Perfect. I'll bring those out in just a few minutes along with some special toppings. You two are just the sweetest passengers we've had all week." Meanwhile, the Pierce triplets sit in stunned silence, staring at their single shared meal, while their stomachs growl and their hearts break with the gradual understanding that they're being treated differently for reasons they can't fully comprehend. Across the aisle, Naomi feels the world tilt on its axis, and her carefully controlled composure begin to crack. She's faced discrimination before, subtle slights in boardrooms where she was the only black face, assumptions about her competence despite her obvious qualifications, questions about her background that white colleagues never faced. But this is different. This isn't about her professional capabilities or her right to occupy certain spaces. This is about her children, her innocent babies, who've done nothing wrong except exist in a space someone has decided they don't deserve to fully enjoy. The rage that builds inside her is unlike anything she's ever experienced. It's not just anger, it's a mother's fury, combined with the full weight of generational injustice. Every slight her grandparents faced during Jim Crow, every barrier her parents overcame during integration, every time she had to work twice as hard to get half the recognition, all of it crystallizes in this moment, watching her innocent children learn firsthand that the world sees them as less deserving than their white peers. Every instinct screams at her to stand up to demand justice, to make a scene that will force acknowledgement of this cruelty. Her hands shake with the effort of staying calm. Her voice wants to rise in righteous indignation. Her body wants to march over to Melissa and demand an explanation for this blatant discrimination. But she looks at her sons, their confused faces, their trust in her to handle this situation appropriately, their innocence still partially intact despite the cruelty they're witnessing, and makes a different choice. She opens her designer handbag and removes 3 small packets of premium organic crackers, the kind she always carries for emergencies. They cost more than most people spend on lunch, but right now they represent so much more than food. They represent dignity in the face of degradation. They represent a mother's love providing what the world refuses to give. They represent the refusal to let someone else's racism define her children's worth. Standing gracefully, she walks across the aisle to their row. Every passenger in first class watches as she places one packet in front of each boy. Her movements deliberate and full of quiet dignity that somehow manages to be both heartbreaking and powerful. "Here are my loves," she says softly, her voice steady despite the storm raging inside her. "Eat these for now. We'll have a proper dinner when we land, and it will be much better than anything they could serve on this plane." The words carry multiple meanings: practical instruction, emotional comfort, and subtle condemnation of the treatment they're receiving. The boys nod, tearing open their crackers with the heartbreaking acceptance of children who are learning that the world isn't always fair, but trusting that their mother will always take care of them no matter what happens. Malik, the most sensitive of the 3, whispers, "Mommy, did we do something wrong?" Naomi kneels beside his seat, her hand gentle on his cheek, her voice filled with fierce love and absolute certainty. "No, sweetheart, you did everything right. You're perfect, exactly as you are, and don't let anyone ever tell you otherwise." She returns to her seat, every step measured and deliberate. The entire first-class cabin watches in stunned silence, processing what they've witnessed. Some passengers look sympathetic, others uncomfortable, and a disturbing few seem to approve of what they perceive as appropriate discipline for children who were asking for too much. But Thomas Chin recognizes what he's witnessing as something far more complex than a simple service dispute. As a successful Asian American businessman, he's faced his own share of discrimination, though nothing as blatant or cruel as this. He understands the impossible position Naomi is in. Respond with anger and be labeled as aggressive or threatening, or accept the treatment and watch her children learn to expect less than they deserve. Melissa, emboldened by what she perceives as Naomi's submission and feeling justified in her discriminatory behavior, decides to twist the knife deeper with words that will haunt her for the rest of her life. "You know," she says loudly enough for surrounding passengers to hear smirking as she arranges items on her service cart, "people really should know their place. That's how most of you people eat anyway. I'm sure you can manage." The racist assumption hangs in the air like smoke from a fire that's about to become an inferno. The casual cruelty of it, the assumption that black families naturally share food because of poverty or cultural deficiency, the dismissive certainty that they should be grateful for whatever scraps they receive. It all crystallizes in 18 words that reveal the depth of Melissa's prejudice and the systemic nature of the discrimination. Other passengers gasp audibly. Someone mutters, "Oh my God, did she really just say that?" The Johnson children look confused, sensing that something terrible has happened, but not understanding what. Naomi stops walking. She doesn't turn around immediately. She simply stands there for a moment, letting the full implication of those words settle into her consciousness and transform her approach to this entire situation. know their place. That's how most of you people eat anyway. The phrases carry centuries of hatred and systemic oppression. They echo through history, from slavery to Jim Crow to every modern microaggression that tells black people they don't belong in spaces they've earned. They're the verbal equivalent of a slap across the face, delivered with a smile and the confidence that comes from believing you have all the power in the situation. Slowly, deliberately, Naomi turns around. Her eyes lock onto Melissa's face with laser precision. And when she speaks, her voice carries across the silent cabin with the authority of someone who's about to change everything. "I do know my place," she says quietly, each word carrying the weight of absolute certainty and something else. Something that makes the smartest passengers in the cabin suddenly sit up and pay attention. "I own it." The words are soft, but they carry the unmistakable tone of someone who's just declared war and has the weapons to win it. Melissa laughs, a harsh sound that reveals her complete misunderstanding of the situation she's created and the woman she's chosen to target. Of course you do. But Thomas Junn suddenly realizes where he's seen that face before. Forbes magazine, the cover story about successful single mothers building business empires. The photograph of Dr. Naomi Pierce, founder and CEO of Pierce Foundation, announcing her latest round of investments in airline industry reforms. His blood runs cold as the pieces click into place, and he understands that Melissa Sterling has just made the most expensive mistake of her career. Naomi doesn't respond to Melissa's mockery. She doesn't need to argue or defend or explain. She simply takes out her phone and begins typing with a calm precision of someone who's about to demonstrate exactly what real power looks like when it's been pushed too far. What would you do if you watched your children being told they should know their place while other kids received preferential treatment? How would you respond to hearing racist assumptions about how your people naturally behave? Because what Naomi does next is about to prove that sometimes the quietest responses create the loudest consequences. Make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell, because this story is about to show you exactly what happens when someone with real power decides they've had enough of casual racism and systematic discrimination. The message Naomi types travels through digital space at light speed, reaching David Morrison's Manhattan office before Melissa finishes arranging the service cart she's been using as a prop for her racist performance. David, emergency board meeting tonight at 8:00 p.m. Pulling all Pierce Foundation investments from Skyline Airlines, effective immediately. Have legal draft termination papers for the entire $180 million partnership deal. Document everything. Systematic discrimination against my children witnessed by full cabin, including racist comments about how our people eat and knowing our place. Employees also interfered with diabetic children's medical emergencies. This ends now. Full media statement forthcoming. In his corner office overlooking Central Park, David Morrison feels his blood pressure spike as he processes the implications. As chief financial officer of Pierce Foundation and Naomi's closest friend since Harvard Business School, he's seen her angry before. But this message carries the cold fury of someone who's moved beyond anger into systematic destruction. Cancel everything on my schedule. He barks to his assistant while pulling up every contract Pierce Foundation has with Skyline Airlines. Get me Richard Hawthorne on the line immediately. Call emergency sessions with our entire legal team, publicity department, and board of directors. Tell them we have a code red situation that could reshape the airline industry. The implications are staggering. Pierce Foundation doesn't just hold stock in Skyline Airlines. They're the single largest private investor controlling 22% of outstanding shares. The partnership deal represents a comprehensive $180 million initiative designed to revolutionize how airlines treat minority passengers. David's assistant rushes in with a tablet showing Skyline's stock price in real time. Sir, the market is already reacting. We're down 8% just on rumors that Pierce Foundation might be reconsidering their airline investments. How is that possible? Naomi just sent the message 20 minutes ago. Word travels fast in investment circles, sir. And someone leaked that Dr. Pierce was on a Skyline flight that's trending on social media under Skyline shame. David's blood runs cold. Show me. The tablet displays a growing collection of videos and posts from Flight 447 passengers. The footage is damning clear documentation of Melissa's discriminatory treatment, the differential service between black and white children, and most explosive of all audio recordings of her racist comments about knowing their place and how most of you people eat. Anyway, Thomas Chen's post is gaining massive traction. Just witnessed the most blatant racism I've ever seen on its Skyline Air Flight 447. 3 black children told to share one meal while white children received individual gourmet service. When their mother quietly provided crackers, the flight attendant said, "People should know their place, and that's how most of you people eat anyway." Dr. Pierce's response, "I do. I own it." Skyline is about to learn exactly what that means. Skyline shame, our accountability matters. Dagger systemic racism. The post already has 50,000 shares and climbing exponentially. David immediately calls Pierce Foundation's crisis management team. We need a full media strategy assembled within the hour and prepare for complete corporate warfare. If Naomi is this angry, we're dealing with something that will reshape the industry. Back on Flight 447, Naomi continues orchestrating a corporate revolution with surgical precision. Her second message goes to Marcus Rodriguez, Pierce Foundation's head of legal affairs. Marcus needs comprehensive documentation of systematic discrimination incident on Skyline Flight 447. Multiple witnesses, video evidence available from passengers. Prepare for complete contract termination and potential federal civil rights litigation. Employee made explicitly racist statements and interfered with diabetic child's medical emergency. This is not a request. Her third message reaches Dr. Angela Washington, Pierce Foundation's Director of Social Justice Initiatives. Angela, Skyline Airlines just failed their diversity test spectacularly. Racist comments, systematic discrimination against children, interference with medical emergency care. Prepare alternative airline partners for immediate transition of our $200 million equality initiative. We're moving the entire program elsewhere and making this a case study in corporate accountability. Each message is a precise surgical strike designed to dismantle Skyline Airlines' corporate structure piece by piece. Meanwhile, her sons continue eating their crackers, unaware that their mother's quiet response to racism is about to trigger the largest corporate accountability scandal in airline history. Malik looks across the aisle at his mother, recognizing the focused expression he's seen when she's solving complex problems. "Mommy, are you working?" "Yes, baby," she replies without looking up from her phone. "I'm solving a problem that's bigger than just us." "What kind of problem?" Naomi pauses, considering how to explain systematic racism to a 10-year-old. The kind that makes sure other children never have to be told they should know their place or hear racist comments about how their people eat. Miles, always perceptive, asks quietly, "Are we helping other kids who might be treated badly too?" "Yes, sweetheart. We're helping lots of other kids who deserve better." "Good," Micah adds softly. Nobody should have to be hungry or feel bad about who they are. Their simple understanding provides moral clarity that cuts through all corporate complexity. This isn't about stock prices or partnerships. It's about 3 children who faced racism and a mother who refuses to let it stand. 30 minutes later, turbulence rocks the aircraft, triggering a medical crisis for Micah. The combination of delayed eating stress from discrimination and his diabetic condition creates dangerous complications. His breathing becomes shallow and rapid. His hands tremble from dropping blood sugar levels. "Mommy," he gasps. Naomi's maternal instincts override everything. She unbuckles and kneels beside his seat despite the seatbelt sign, pulling emergency glucose tablets from her purse. "Breathe with me, sweetheart," she says calmly. "Chew this slowly." Dr. Sarah Chin, a pediatric endocrinologist in 3, recognizes the signs. "Is he type 1 diabetic diagnosed at 7? Naomi confirms. His schedule was disrupted by the delayed meal service. Dr. Chen's face darkens. "That's unconscionable. This could have triggered serious hypoglycemia." That's when Melissa appears, flushed with authority and annoyance. "Ma'am, you need to return to your seat immediately. The seatbelt sign is illuminated. This is federal regulation." Naomi doesn't move. Her son's health takes priority. "Ma'am, this is your final warning. Return to your seat or I'll call the captain." Dr. Chin stands up. "This child is experiencing a hypoglycemic episode triggered by your denial of proper nutrition. His mother is providing necessary medical care. I don't care what kind of episode he's having. Federal regulations require all passengers to be seated when the seatbelt sign is on." Thomas Chin explodes. "Leave her alone. Can't you see the child is sick? Other passengers join in. Let her help her son. Have some compassion. This is a medical emergency." Melissa's face goes pale as every passenger turns against her. "I have to follow regulations." "The only regulation you should follow," Thomas Chin declares, "is basic human decency." Naomi waits until Micah stabilizes before returning to her seat. "Thank you for your patience during my son's medical emergency," she says with silk-wrapped sarcasm. As turbulence subsides, Naomi receives updates revealing the crisis she's unleashed. David's message: "End legal team assembled. Skyline stock is down 22% and falling. CEO's office calling frantically. Multiple board members demanding emergency meetings." "What do you want me to tell them?" Naomi types back. "Tell them Dr. Pierce will make a comprehensive public statement upon landing. Also suggest they start updating their resumes." But the real earthquake begins when her story reaches social media with viral velocity. Unknown to the crew, passengers have been tweeting the incident. Videos and first-hand accounts spread faster than Skyline's crisis team can respond. Skyline shame becomes the #1 trending hashtag globally. The footage of Melissa's discriminatory treatment has been viewed over 10 million times. The video showing her interference with Micah's medical emergency goes truly viral. Racist flight attendant prioritizes regulations over diabetic child's hypoglycemic episode. Where is humanity? Skyline shame. Disability rights. Medical emergency. Celebrity activists amplify the story. Politicians issue statements. Civil rights organizations call for federal investigations. In Skyline Denver headquarters, Richard Hawthorne paces his office while phones ring non-stop. "How did we not know Dr. Naomi Pierce was on our flight?" he screams. "How does our biggest investor end up in a discrimination incident?" Margaret Foster bursts in with her laptop. "Sir, catastrophic situation. The incident is trending globally. Our stock has lost 35% value. Dr. Pierce's foundation is terminating all partnerships. Hawthorne watches the viral video compilation Melissa's discriminatory service. Racist comments, interference with medical care. Who is the flight attendant Melissa Sterling, 20-year veteran with multiple discrimination complaints? We dismissed. Get her terminated the moment that plane lands. Sir Dr. Pierce isn't taking calls. Her office says she'll make a statement after landing through her legal team. Hawthorne realizes his company faces an existential crisis. Pice Foundation provides funding for training programs, diversity consulting and corporate responsibility initiatives central to Skyline's public image. As Flight 447 descends toward Boston, passengers settle into uncomfortable silence. Some spoke up when it mattered, others remained silent too long. The Johnson family sits in particular discomfort, realizing their preferential treatment came at 3 children's expense. Naomi remains perfectly calm while orchestrating corporate revolution. Her boys chat excitedly about vacation, their resilience testament to natural optimism and maternal protection. As the plane touches down, Naomi receives David's final message, and reporters from every major network waiting at the gate. The story has gone international. Congressional leaders calling for hearings. Are you ready? She types back, I was born ready. It's time the world learned what happens when you mistake quiet strength for weakness, and what knowing your place really means when your place is at the top. Boston Logan International Airport Gate B-27 transforms into a media circus resembling a presidential arrival. Camera flashes illuminate the terminal like lightning strikes. Reporters clutch microphones in dozens of languages. News trucks with satellite dishes fill every parking space. Skyline shame has exploded across every social platform simultaneously. The original videos have been viewed over 50 million times globally. Cable networks interrupted regular programming hours ago. International outlets broadcast footage with subtitles in dozens of languages. Celebrity activists from Oprah to LeBron James share videos with condemnation statements. Politicians from both parties issue carefully worded responses while staffers prepare oversight hearings. Civil rights organizations mobilize legal teams and plan nationwide protests. Richard Hawthorne, Theo of Skyline Airlines, stands with his executive team looking like defendants awaiting verdicts. His usually perfect silver hair is disheveled beyond repair. Expensive suit wrinkled from stress sweating. Hands shaking as he checks his phone for plummeting stock updates. Dr. Angela Washington Pierce Foundation's Director of Social Justice Initiatives stands nearby with lawyers, foundation representatives, and civil rights advocates. Her presence signals this transcends one family's experience. It's about systematic change backed by serious institutional power. As passengers disembark, many stop to speak with reporters creating real-time documentaries of systematic racism in action. Thomas Chin provides a detailed account to CNN. I've traveled over 3 million miles for business across 6 continents, and I've never seen anything like this. 3 children were systematically denied service they paid for, forced to watch white children receive preferential treatment, when their mother quietly provided crackers for her hungry sons. The flight attendant said they should know their place, and that that's how most of you people eat anyway. The casual racism was breathtaking, but Dr. Pierce's dignity in response was inspiring. Dr. Sarah Chin speaks to medical correspondents. Melissa Sterling's actions weren't just discriminatory, they were medically negligent and potentially life-threatening. The Johnson family reluctantly confirmed differential treatment. Our children received individual gourmet meals and special service, while those 3 boys were told to share and treated with obvious contempt. We didn't speak up. That makes us part of the problem. We're ashamed of our silence. But when Naomi Pierce emerges from the jet bridge with her sons, the terminal goes momentarily silent. Cameras focus on the elegant woman walking calmly through chaos, while three boys stay close beside her. Small hands gripping backpacks, but heads held high with inherited dignity. Dr. Pierce. Dr. Pierce. Reporters surge forward. How do you feel about the racist treatment? Is it true you're pulling your foundation's entire investment? Will you file federal civil rights charges? Naomi places protective hands on her boy's shoulders, speaking with calm authority. My sons and I will make a comprehensive statement shortly, addressing not just today's incident, but the systematic problems it represents. Right now, my priority is ensuring my children understand that what happened was morally wrong, legally actionable, and will have consequences extending far beyond one airline or employee. Richard Hawthorne approaches with desperation. Doctor. Pierce, please, if we could speak privately. We had no idea you were on the flight. This is a terrible misunderstanding we can resolve through dialogue. Naomi cuts him off with surgical precision. Mr. Hawthorne, are you suggesting you would have treated my children differently if you'd known who I was? The question hangs in air while cameras capture Hawthorne's stunned expression and growing realization he's walked into a legal trap. No, that's not. We provide equal service to all passengers regardless of. Then explain to me. Naomi continues, voice growing stronger. Why your employee told 3 first-class passengers they had to share one meal, then immediately served individual gourmet meals to white children 2 rows away, then told my sons, people should know their place and that's how most of you people eat anyway. Hawthorne has no answer. How do you explain systematic racism recorded by multiple witnesses and broadcast to millions worldwide? Melissa Sterling emerges from the jet bridge flanked by security and looking like someone who's realized her world has collapsed. When reporters confront her with video evidence of her racist statements, she tries denying them until multiple videos prove she's lying. Dr. Angela Washington approaches microphones with devastating revelation. Pierce Foundation has invested over $180 million in partnership with Skyline Airlines, specifically to prevent discrimination. Exactly like this, we funded comprehensive employee training programs, policy development, accountability measures, and monitoring systems. Today's incident proves that Skyline Airlines took our money, signed our contracts, and publicly committed to change while allowing systematic racism to continue unchallenged. The revelation adds devastating layer to the scandal. Skyline wasn't just guilty of discrimination. They were guilty of defrauding their largest investor. Naomi addresses cameras with commanding presence. I am Dr. Naomi Pierce, founder and CEO of Pierce Foundation. Through various investment vehicles and partnership agreements, I control 22% of Skyline Airlines' outstanding shares, making me the largest private investor in this company. Gasps ripple through crowd as financial reporters check phones for real-time stock prices, which have plummeted over 45%. Effective immediately, Pierce Foundation is divesting all holdings in Skyline Airlines. We are terminating our $180 million partnership program. We are withdrawing support for all diversity and inclusion initiatives associated with this company. We are recommending that all socially responsible investment funds remove Skyline from their portfolios. Hawthorne staggers backward, gripping nearby railings as he watches company value evaporate. But more importantly, Naomi continues, we are reallocating those resources to airline companies that demonstrate genuine commitment to treating all passengers with dignity. Because what my sons experienced today, being told to share food they paid for individually while watching white children receive preferential service, than being told they should know their place. And that's how most of us eat anyway. That's about corporate culture that sees some children as less deserving than others. She looks down at her boys, Malik, Miles, and Micah. I want you to remember this moment, not because of how you were treated, but because of how we responded. We didn't get angry. We didn't make scenes. We simply refused to accept that treatment as normal or acceptable, and we used our voice and power to ensure other children won't face the same cruelty. Malik speaks into microphones with startling clarity. Mommy told us something important. She said, "We don't have to share our food when we've earned our own, but we do share our voice to help other people who might be treated badly too." Naomi nods, eyes bright with fierce pride. That's right, baby. One voice can feed change, and change feeds progress. The aftermath unfolds with revolutionary speed. Richard Hawthorne resigns within 48 hours. Melissa Sterling becomes subject of federal civil rights investigations and is blacklisted from the airline industry. Skyline loses 60% of its stock value as investors follow Pierce Foundation's lead. Congressional hearings begin within 2 weeks. The Melissa Sterling Act passes with bipartisan support, requiring systematic anti-discrimination training and severe penalties for companies that accept diversity funding while perpetuating racist practices. Pierce Foundation's partnership with Delta Airlines creates the most comprehensive equality program in aviation history. Other airlines compete to implement similar reforms. 6 months later, Naomi announces, "We've documented a 78% reduction in discrimination complaints across participating airlines. More importantly, we've created a model that other industries are adopting voluntarily." 3 years later, the boys, now 13, speak at civil rights conferences. Miles, what we remember most isn't how badly we were treated. It's how our mother showed us that dignity and intelligence can be more powerful than anger and hatred. The incident that began with 18 words of casual racism ultimately generated billions in anti-discrimination investment federal legislation and a new model for corporate accountability. 5 years later, Naomi is inducted into the Civil Rights Hall of Fame. My sons were told they should know their place. They do know their place, and their place is anywhere they choose to be. Anywhere they work to reach, anywhere they dream of going. Because in America, your place isn't determined by others' prejudices, but by your own courage, dignity, and refusal to accept anything less than full human respect. As Naomi taught the world, respect isn't purchased with ticket prices or granted by seat assignments. Respect is earned through character, defended through dignity, and secured through the kind of quiet strength that knows exactly when to speak and exactly how much power those words can carry. The quiet revolution proved the most powerful one of all. What did you think of Naomi's approach to fighting systematic racism? Have you ever faced discrimination and wondered how to respond with both dignity and effectiveness? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story moved you to think differently about standing up for what's right, please subscribe and share this video. Because sometimes the most important changes start with one voice refusing to accept injustice as normal, and one family's courage inspiring an entire nation to do better.